Mona and the magic of the Noor lantern. Mona stood in her bedroom, looking at her open suitcase. She had packed her softest pajamas, her favorite prayer rug, and Mishmish, her fluffy orange plush cat. Tonight was her very first sleepover at Tata's house without her parents. Her heart felt like a little drum beating too fast. "Bismillah," she whispered, tucking Mishmish into the corner of the bag. What if the house feels too big at night? When they arrived at Tata's house, the air smelled like orange blossoms and warm cinnamon. Tata was waiting on the porch with her arms wide open. She gave Mona a hug that felt like a soft, warm blanket. "I have so many secrets to show you, Mona Habibti," she whispered. Mona felt the nervous drum in her heart slow down just a little bit as she inhaled the scent of Tata's perfume. The first secret was in the kitchen. Tata didn't just bake cookies. She made crescent delights. Before they started, they both said Bismillah out loud to ask for a blessing on their food. They rolled the dough and used a silver cutter to make shapes like the new moon. Mona got a smudge of flour on her nose, and Tata laughed, a sound like happy birds singing. They watched the oven together as the kitchen filled with a sweet, buttery aroma. After the cookies, Mona went exploring in Tata's memory room. It was a room filled with old books and beautiful hanging tapestries. Mona found a wooden box that sparkled in the sunlight coming through the window. Inside, she discovered a shiny turquoise prayer bead string called a tasbih. She ran her fingers over the smooth, cool beads and felt a wave of peace, like she was holding a string of tiny, polished sea stones. At dinner, the house felt very quiet, and Mona started to miss her mama and baba. But then Tata started telling stories about when Mona's baba was a little boy. She told her about the time he tried to lead a prayer for the neighborhood goats in the garden. Tata used her hands to show how the goats just chewed on his shirt instead of standing still. Mona couldn't help but giggle, forgetting her sadness. When it was time for bed, Tata tucked Mona into the big guest bed. The blankets were heavy and smelled like lavender, but the corners of the room looked very dark. A long, thin shadow stretched across the wall, swaying back and forth in the moonlight. "It looks like a giant, reaching hand," Mona whispered, pulling the covers up to her chin. Mishmish the cat was squeezed tight in her arms. Just then, the door opened with a soft click. It wasn't a shadow monster, it was Tata. She was carrying a beautiful round metal lantern that glowed with a soft golden light through its intricate patterns. "This is the Noor lantern," she said gently. "Noor means light. It reminds us that Allah's light and protection are always with us, turning the dark into something beautiful." Tata sat on the edge of the bed, and together they recited Ayatul Kursi, a special prayer for protection. As Tata moved the lantern, the scary hand shadow on the wall suddenly transformed into the shape of a beautiful tree branch swaying in the wind. They sat together in the golden glow, and Mona felt like she was inside a cozy tent made of stars. Tata gave her a final kiss on the forehead and whispered, "Sleep in the protection of Allah, my little star." She left the lantern glowing very low. Mona hugged Mishmish and listened to the peaceful rustle of the leaves outside. The drum in her heart was finally silent, replaced by the memory of the crescent cookies and the warmth of the Noor light. Soon, she was drifting into a deep, happy sleep. The next morning, Mona woke up to the delicious smell of warm honey and toasted bread. She realized she had done it. She had stayed the whole night and felt perfectly safe. She skipped into the kitchen and hugged Tata's waist tightly. "I had a dream that the Noor lantern turned into a real star," she said. "Tata, can I stay for 2 nights next time?" Tata smiled and placed a warm breakfast on the table.